Hello everybody and welcome back. Good to talk to all of you again today. And today we're doing a ship review for this Tier 5 Pan-European premium battleship, the Viribus Unitis. And before I start the actual ship review, I do have to say one thing for disclosure purposes. This ship was provided by Wargaming at no cost to me for review purposes. The opinions of the ship are entirely my own and do not represent the views of Wargaming or any of their employees. One other bit of housekeeping, you might have noticed that there was like a week gap between my last video and this one. It's because I went down with like the worst cold ever, and today's the first day. I think I sound kind of normal, so here we go, right? Oh yes, and once this review is completely done, I will be holding a giveaway on my Discord server for this ship. Discord invite is in the video description below. So here we go. Viribus Unitis, what makes her good, bad, and what makes her absolutely horrible? So first things first, and we're going to start with one not so good point, is she's a tier 5 battleship with 35,700 HP. That is a pretty crap amount of HP. How bad? Well, if you take a look at Pirtevelecki, it's got 51,000. You look at Cesare, she's sitting at 45,500. Congo is sitting at like 54,100, Texas at 49,100, so 35,700 is like a tier 4 battleship, so you don't have a lot of HP to play with. She does actually have pretty good armor though. So if you take a look at the bow area, there's a 19mm piece on top which can be overmatched, but the pieces down below are actually quite thick. 100mm here, 130, 150. If you angle correctly in your bow in, enemy ships not likely to get such great damage. Side armor is also pretty good. 280mm main belt, 180mm upper belt, although these casement areas can become shell traps, so you can sometimes still eat like random penetration damage through there. You also do have sloped Citadel armor, which if I take this all away, you'll see that the Citadel armor is actually sloped, so in close and enemy ships might not really be hitting your Citadel, but if you're taking shells at range, shells that are coming down a bit of an angle, they can punch through that. So you can still eat Citadel damage in the ship. Actually, one of the things I found is that when I'm fighting this particular ship itself, and because of the way the shells are, they tend to arc pretty high and then they kind of drop down, you can actually Citadel other ships of this exact same type, which is kind of a cool thing. Stern armor, 19mm. As you can see, not so much of these thick pieces underneath. This one piece here is 150, but if you're running away and you're trying to kite away, the stern is not your friend. You will eat overmatch / penetration damage through here. So not so good there. One other thing to pay attention to is the fact that the main battery mount forward plate here is the face armor here is only 200mm. So yeah, your turrets can actually get knocked out quite a bit. So armor protection wise is good, HP wise not so much. So she's kind of a weird combination of two in terms of survivability, right? Torpedo damage reduction is relatively poor at only 18%. Other tier 5 battleships generally have it a bit better. Alright, moving on to the main guns. So the main guns are 305mm. So not particularly great in that regard. You do have a lot of them. You got 12 of them in total. They actually have decent dispersion, 207 meters, and 1.8 sigma. So the shells, well, depending on situation, be relatively nicely grouped together, although you will still have the occasional kind of random salvo, let's just call it that way. But because these are 305mm guns, AP shell damage is a pretty pathetic 8,500. You have 16km range, but because these are essentially World War I era guns, these shells do have a tendency of being relatively floaty out at distance. In terms of their penetration capabilities, they're less than what the Cesare has, and so that means it's still not so bad at 16 kilometers, just maybe not against higher tier battleships, and that's really where this battleship struggles. You know, she's okay against other tier 5s, okay against some of the tier 6s, but run up against the tier 7s and well, yeah, good luck with that. But other than that, yeah, the main guns are actually not bad, and you know, I've had relatively consistent damage with the ship. However, there's a major however with the ship. She's a tier 5, so she sees tier 4 carriers, and she sees tier 6 carriers. Now, take a look at what she has for AA. 4 single 70mm guns that have a continuous DPS of 14. Yeah, good luck against carriers. Even the tier 4 ones will absolutely screw you. There is one thing about the ship that I'm not so sure what happened, because when I look at the ship model, here's the problem, right? These are the 70mm guns over here, and there's 2 of them here, and there's 2 of them on like the rear turrets, right? Yep, right there. But I also noticed a bunch of these other 70mm mounts, except none of them are accounted for. It's super weird. There's like all these other guns that are modeled but don't account for anything. Almost wonder if maybe they should contribute a little bit to the AA defense. But regardless, your AA is pretty trash and you're basically food for CVs. So, yeah. Maximum speed 21.5 knots with a speed flag, so that's not all that great. But if you're kind of used to US standard type battleships, this might be acceptable. 530-meter turning circle radius, that's good. She is a pretty small ship, so that's nice. Rudder shift time 11.5 seconds, so you know you still have to be intelligent about when and where you're going to turn. Detectability range by sea 10.9 kilometers, so this is a good number. That allows you to kind of sneak up a little bit closer to cruisers and stuff like that before unleashing your guns, which is great. Allows you to actually blap ships at closer distances. 3 upgrade slots recommend main armaments mod 1, damage control mod 1, and aiming systems mod 1. In terms of your consumables, you've got a DCP and you got repair party, which with superintendent you can get up to 5 charges, and depending on how well you use them, you can potentially use all of them, but sometimes you can't, just because again, small initial HP pool. So you know, if you take too much Citadel damage and stuff like that, you ain't healing any of that back. Not signals. In terms of your captain, I would recommend very standard battleship build. So priority target, and then adrenaline rush, superintendent, concealment, and then fire prevention, basics of survivability, and expert marksman. And that's pretty much all we can talk about for the ship in the port view. Let's take a look at her in battle, and I'll sort of show you her characteristics in battle. So on to fault line we go in the Viribus Unitis, and the very first thing about this battle is, oh boy, 2 enemy tier 4 carriers. This ship isn't as common yet in the game, and I think a lot of new CV players are not aware of this ship's vulnerabilities, but once they figure it out, oh boy, is it going to be fun to be playing this ship. You'll see why. You might also wonder why I'm not showing you a tier 7 game, you know, something higher tiers. And it's mostly because today, for whatever purposes, out of my many battles, I didn't have a lot of games with carriers. In fact, I had 2. And this is the only one where I actually got attacked by the said carrier. So this is probably the one where I was going to be like, hey, you know what? I can show you this particular vulnerability, because against the tier 7 battleships, you're sort of vulnerable in many of the same ways as the other battleships, although again, that low HP pool can be a real pain. Let's just put it that way. You don't have as much heal. You don't have as much anything else, right? So you can see over the entire course of the heal, you'll heal just under 6k, which is not a huge amount. And if you eat Citadels or whatever, you're only healing back 10% of Citadel damage. So it's like very bad amounts of healing, you know, that you can get with the ship. And with that small HP pool, tier 7s can be really rough. And plus, you've got small guns, so not making it any better there. Alright, so having not been attacked on the first pass by the carrier, you know, thank goodness for that. I am going to take a bit of a pot shot here at this Phoenix. And you can see that the dispersion isn't awful. It's not like really bad. Although I do kind of straddle the ship. Phoenix is a relatively narrow ship, so, you know, okay. That's fine. I'm going to just start pushing here with this Cesare and this Wyoming and see what happens. Alright, so, oh yes, I forgot to talk about the turret traverse. The ship's turret traverse is not that bad. Standard, I think, base turret traverse time is 45 seconds, so with expert marksman it does help a little bit. It's not awful, not exactly super fast either. It's just kind of acceptable, shall we use that word. Alright, so let's get pushing here. This Phoenix is going to die before I can get another shot in him, so that's fine. Probably going to get my turrets traversed around, mostly because I'm looking at the distance and I see Texas, Iron Duke, Karlsruhe, and they're all kind of on this other side. So I'm going to get my guns maybe onto that side and get them ready to engage. So yeah, carriers, really kind of annoying thing. Luckily, most new carriers haven't figured it out yet. But when they do, this ship against carriers is going to be really painful. especially, and there's an especial kind of carrier that you're going to not like, and that is the Japanese ones with the armor-piercing bombs. Remember that really poor Citadel healing of only 10%? Well, low HP pool gets Citadel by carrier very quickly can send you to the bottom of the ocean. There's an enemy Texas over here, 13.1 kilometers. I'm going to get a little bit closer before opening up. Why? Because this particular ship has First World War era shells. So they have a tendency of, at closer distances, being relatively okay, but the further you get, the air drag value is relatively poor, so the shells slow down. And so the further you want to hit, the floatier the shells become. So you want to use that good concealment generally to try to get a little bit closer before you open up. So against Texas, I got a little bit closer before shooting, and you can see that that shell flow time wasn't too bad, out to about 12.7 kilometers. I'm going to shoot again here. Let's see what happens. Texas is maneuvering a little bit here, so rear guns, forward guns. You can tell the dispersion at times can be a little bit wonky, but generally pretty consistent. You know, so she's okay, shall we say, in a lot of ways when it comes to dispersion. So here we go. Let me see if I can get a better target here. This Karlsruhe is tempting. My guns would reload and I can get my ship here. And no, Karlsruhe is going kind of behind the island here, so might as well just wait for all the guns to reload and pick a better target. I see an enemy Hosho. Do not come any closer to me. Oh crap. Hosho's coming closer to me. This is my reaction when I was playing this game. It's like, oh crap, please don't come after me. Please, 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 please don't come after me. Oh, come on. I'm trying to get a little bit closer to some allied AA cover here, but yeah, it looks like this Hosho's coming for me. Probably should have actually stayed maybe more broadside here, but yeah. There you go. This one here, watch this. Hosho, 2 bombs, AP bombs, bang, 6,000. That is double Citadel. And you'll notice that I took all that damage and look how much I can heal back. Very, very, very little. So, had this enemy CV player kind of figured it out, I mean, it was nice that I was kind of closer to a bunch of my friendly ships as well, but if I was alone and isolated, I mean, think about what that Hosho could have done to me. 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 passes, maybe? I don't have any AA defense to speak of, and yeah, that would have probably been the end of me. Not fun. Alright, another salvo here against this Karlsruhe. Bang. Okay, dead. So, you know, the dispersion is, yeah, it's not bad. It's workable. You know, you have 12 shells, so, you know, you have 12 guns. They can do work. They can do some pretty good damage. Penetration-wise isn't as bad. They're actually a little bit worse at all ranges compared to Cesare, but pretty close. I think the average is about 20 millimeters worse in terms of penetration, so it's okay. Salvo against the Wyoming here. Not too bad, and hey, there we go. Managed to get a Citadel on that salvo. Good thing, CV didn't come back for me again. Whew. Imagine if that CV went, hey, I got double Citadel, you know, I'm going to keep sending planes at you, send another couple of waves at you. That would have just been really, really, really bad. I can actually see if you want a nice division ship with the Viribus Unitis, is actually to have a Texas in your division. Texas provides essentially the AA protection, and you know, Texas goes at roughly the same speed, so that could work. Yes, I am actually correctly locked onto the Wyoming in this salvo here, not aimed at the Texas. It's just the replay doing replay things. So you can see pretty consistent damage there. Wyoming, I don't know what this Wyoming is doing, just going full broadside, so yay. Extra free damage there. At times, it's also a possibility that maybe people just don't see you as being much of a threat. I've had a situation today where like people just didn't treat me as big of a threat as other ships, and allowed me to get on their sides and actually hammer them properly. So that could be an advantage, you know, small guns. You do have a lot of them, but relatively small guns, and people just kind of underestimate your ship, possibly. Okay, that salvo not so great. That's, you know, to be expected. I'm still relatively within range of friendly ships, so hopefully this Hosho does not come for me again. Yes. Stay away from me, please. I can't stand too many of those 6K Citadels hits from the Hosho. Good. He's going after the Wyoming, which not really going to get the damage out of. Far easier, I think, to get damage out of my ship than the Wyoming here. And as you can see, continuous DPS is just like piss poor. Langley here, Alright, I'm going to maneuver a little bit. I'm going to try to do my best to... There we go. Okay, managed to dodge those two. Langley bomber is not as big of a threat, mostly just because HE bombs, the IJN ones, are far more terrifying. Alright, Texas coming around again. Hopefully I can get a bit more damage here. Come on now. Come on now, Texas. Let me get around here. Okay, aiming. Bang. Salvo. Yeah, you can see the shells are actually pretty nice, you know? Pretty nice. Not the best damage there, but pretty good dispersion overall. At least I can accept that. Right. Let's see here. I think the Texas is going to get killed off by these torpedoes over here. And yeah, 1, 2. Okay, Texas has gone down. All right, so enemy team is down to 3 ships, 2 CVs and a destroyer, which probably never going to find. One of our destroyers is chasing the carriers, so I'm just going to try to get in what remaining damage I can here. So here we go. You can see at 13.8, you can start to see the shells becoming just a little bit floatier, and they do have a tendency of sort of plunging down. This is actually why I was saying against another Viribus Unitis, you can actually at distances get Citadels, because they come in at such a steep angle that once they pass through, they just hit that relatively flat sloped Citadel armor, which at close distances works, but against plunging shells, not so much. So I have been able to get Citadels against the exact same ship at distance. Okay, come on, reload. Hopefully I'm going to get a better salvo here. Go. Yeah, it doesn't look so bad here. Nice grouping of shells, relatively speaking, and bang, gone. There we go. Alright, and so those were 2 more Citadel hits, managed to sink that Hosho, and that's actually the last damage I'm going to get in this game, because what happens is the destroyer and that Langley end up trading. Langley decides to torpedo me from God knows where. Yeah, that's not going to work. You can see the ship turns very, very tightly. So you can dodge torpedoes reasonably well. So yeah, those 2 ships are going to trade each other off, and then I don't think the other destroyer on the enemy team ever really gets found. And then we end up just capping for the win. So that's pretty much the end of this battle. Let me show you the end result screen, and let's call it a day. And so that's that. 84,432 damage game, 4 Citadels, 2 ship kills, 2 aircraft shot down. Wow. Against tier 4s, that's still possible. Against tier 6s, forget it. Sort of very mediocre credits, 222,205, well, what a number, and 4,004 experience, you know, so base experience, top of the team, 1,155. This was a relatively low tier game, so again, higher tier games, you know, you're going to probably struggle more, especially if you run to CVs. Most of my damage there, as you can see, against the 2 battleships, Karlsruhe picked up some, Hosho picked up some, and that was it. Net credits earned, 163,000, without premium, 89,472. So, final concluding thoughts about the ship. It kind of really depends on 2 things. One, are you skilled enough to understand how the mechanics of armor, angling, and all that works? Because if you do, then great, you can help mitigate some of the damage, because with that small HP pool, you really do need it. And second, do you happen to play in a time zone when there's just not a lot of CVs present? So, you know, I guess in certain periods of time, without a lot of CVs around, you can probably do well. I mean, as a pure surface on surface ship kind of battleship, she's actually pretty capable. But the problem is the minute you run into carriers, or the fact that you have no skills. Either one of those 2 things, or a combination of them, or both, whatever. You're going to have a bad day. So yeah, whether you want to get her or not, you know, think about that, and then make your decision. Other than that, folks, take care of yourselves, have a good one, and I'll talk to all of you again soon.